city of Plymouth is the beginning of our journey through the northeastern region of America, in New England. On the 21st of December 1620, the first 102 settlers landed here, travelling from England on the Mayflower, which took them nearly 2 months. A small portico protects the rocks on which the pilgrims, due to inclement weather, set foot here. That is how the settlement of New England became established, and with them the introduction of puritanical beliefs in the New World. It was the first European settlement in a country which had been inhabited for more than 2,000 years by people with Indian roots. But now they were getting to know the white man. The Plymouth Plantation, which lies nearby, is a reconstruction of the Pilgrim Fathers' original settlement. Here, history is brought to life. This replica of the original settlement is one of the jewels of the many living museums in the USA. The new incumbents spent 7 years here. The way of life as it was in those early days is recreated in historic costumes. Protected by a wooden fence, a village street leads to the wooden meeting house, which served as both church and meeting place. Men show how logs were split and used as kindling to make fire. Water is brought from a well, and in the small front garden, herbs are cultivated and chickens scratch the ground. The life of a pilgrim was tough and harsh, but their faith helped to sustain them. In the surrounding woods and lakeland areas are the descendants of the original inhabitants, living as their ancestors used to live and carrying on the same traditions, the same type of housing, food, and the preparation of skins and hides. The Wampanoags Indians and the Puritans have enjoyed a close relationship. Because of their small numbers, the settlers have had little choice but to accept the help of their Indian neighbours. Boston, secret capital of New England, the city on the hill. Copley Square, which features the Trinity Church, represents the centre of the town, which was founded in 1630 by 1,000 Puritans for the Massachusetts Bay Company. With the construction of Trinity Church, a neo-Roman influence began, which in subsequent decades infiltrated the whole of North America. It marked the break of the Boston spirit with its puritanical past. Boston, which has more than 500,000 inhabitants, is the largest of New England cities. As its most important commercial and financial centre, the town on the Charles River plays a historic role. Here was the cradle of independence, and the local community and business elite have good reason to refer to the city's nickname as the Athens of America. Dominant and majestic at the same time is the nearby Hancock Tower, a skyscraper 60 stories tall. The views of the town are overwhelming. The glass facades consist of 10,344 panes of glass. In 1857, the damming of the Charles River Creek began. Back Bay was created. Red-tiled houses along prestigious streets, separated by green swathes. The name Back Bay sounds like backyard, and that's exactly what this area used to be like. But after 30 years of building work, this new residential zone was created. Its proximity to the Charles River has made it one of the city's most important leisure areas. It separates Cambridge from Boston, and the land at the mouth of the river was completely integrated into the city. Its muddy banks were transformed into cultivated park facilities. In 1837, the public garden was created. Fragile bridges link the tiny islands of the pond landscape, and coloured flower beds give it a peaceful and contemplative atmosphere. The lighthouse, which gave the hill its name, no longer exists. Although in this discreet enclave of high society, time seems to have stopped. Beacon Hill has hardly changed over the past 150 years. Even today, the wrought ironwork of the balconies and banisters show that this is one of the most sought-after areas in Boston. The green spaces are not only the heart of the city, but they also form the oldest park in the United States, Boston Common. Since 1634, free speech and smoking in the open air were permitted. Along the Red Line runs the Freedom Trail to the towns of the history of independence, and this begins with the State House. Onward to the Park Street Church, typical of New England. In 1829, it was here that William Garrison gave his first speech against slavery. In the adjacent Granary Burial Ground, some of America's heroes are buried, such as John Hancock, Samuel Adams and Paul Revere. Close by, with its small cemetery, King's Chapel was one of the first Anglican churches in New England. In front of the Old South Meeting House, in 1729, thousands of Boston's inhabitants protested against the English king and the taxes that he had imposed upon them. The Old State House is Boston's oldest public building, In 1776, it was here that the Declaration of Independence was read for the first time. The end of British rule was celebrated in Faneuil Hall, near to Quincy Market. Paul Revere is a hero of American freedom. He lives here, the Patriot. The Freedom Trail leads uphill past the Old North Church, today the town's oldest colonial church, and ends at Copp's Hill Burial Ground. In the harbour area, the modern New England Aquarium was built. In the penguin breeding station, these cheerful companions going about their daily routine are a jolly sight. In the largest saltwater tank in the world, which holds 800,000 litres of water, sharks, turtles and other sea creatures play along happily together. With an eye to the future, the entire harbour area was built in a very imaginative way. From here, boat trips embark frequently. This one takes us to the Charleston Navy Yard, in which there is a Maritime Museum. Here the warship USS Cassin Young is moored and is open to visitors. Dating back to the 18th century, of particular interest is the destroyer the Uss Constitution, thus named because of her invincibility. Cambridge is on the opposite bank of the Charles River and is the location of one of the oldest universities in the United States, Harvard, founded in 1636. A visit to the Harvard campus gives a good impression of the glorious traditions of this elitist club. Here too the sacrifices of war are remembered, and in commemoration of this, John Harvard pensively receives both visitors and students. In the southwest of Boston, we visit the museum town of Old Sturbridge Village. Here, historic buildings from all over the country have been lovingly rebuilt. Village inhabitants in historical costumes walk and talk in wide open spaces and act out the scenes of daily life in times gone by. They depict life as it was 2 centuries ago. With over 20 buildings, this open-air museum shows the country life of New England in the early 19th century. Farmhouse life is depicted here so vividly that the visitor thinks he has been taken back to a past age. The actors play their roles with great authenticity. Nostalgic feelings come to the fore when the villagers gather together for an informal chat in front of the ornately decorated houses. Even the old working methods employed by pioneering farmers are demonstrated. It must have been a tough though calm existence. In those days, there wasn't the same hectic pace as there is today. The water-driven sawmill was vital. Wood was the most important building material of the time, and speedy and efficient production methods were a necessity. The herb garden was also very important, and Boston's diligent women grew many varieties of herbs for medicinal use and as tasty ingredients in the kitchen. An historical tour of this museum is an unforgettable experience. Salem, town of witches. Today, the famous Salem witch trials are the main attraction of this pretty little harbour town. The trials were responsible for 19 executions. In the Witches' Museum, a striking tale is told of religious persecution, and all the gruesome spectacle is reenacted. Innocent women and men were accused of witchcraft and tortured to death or burnt at the stake. In the sad, though famous House of the Seven Gables, lived Captain Haythorne, the witch hunter. Here a gruesome trial took place about who was guilty and who was not. Here, the Puritan descendants of New England lived out their own excessive interpretation of justice. route to the north along the rugged coastline of the Atlantic Ocean leads us to Portsmouth, a quaint little harbour town at the mouth of the Piscataqua River. Freight and the fishing harbour still play an important role, and the red tugboats and deep-sea harbour have become symbols of the town. Pretty brick houses are gems of colonial architecture and remain untainted by tourism. In the 18th and 19th centuries, great wealth was derived from shipbuilding and the wood trade. Strawberry Bank was the town's original name because of the abundance of strawberries in the locality. Today it is a well-preserved area of the town with an old museum, which has survived the rigour of the years. Cultivated gardens with wonderful flower beds and tiny fountains add to the impression of the cosy and enviable lifestyle of Portsmouth's inhabitants. In this small American town, there is no trace of the hectic American way of life, but rather the dignified and well-ordered lifestyle of their historical counterparts in the British Isles. After a short journey, we reach the idyllic York village. Founded in 1624, this is the second oldest settlement by the sea. Everywhere lobster is on offer, which is freshly caught and prepared as a delicacy. The first view of the Nubble Lighthouse is reminiscent of a beautiful postcard. In spite of good weather, there is still a reminder of the power of the ocean. With deafening effect, massive waves break onto the rocky coastline. Here fishermen wait patiently for that big catch. Little fish are small fry. As if straight out of a picture book, stands the white-painted Savage Rock Lighthouse, with its Victorian lighthouse keeper's house, plus a red wooden building. Only a freight cable car leads to the nearby rocky island. With 60,000 inhabitants, Portland is the largest town in this region. Substantial red-painted houses for rent and former trading offices depict the life of this harbour town. Portland had to be rebuilt several times because Indians, then the British, and subsequently a huge fire turned it to rubble and ashes. Portland is still significant as a busy harbour for oil and wood, and above all its fishing industry. In the new harbour, huge motor yachts are moored, and in recent years the harbour area has become residential. Brunswick, with just 21,000 inhabitants, is a deceptively small town, which is situated at the mouth of the Kennebec River. The main attraction of this 270-year-old town is Bowdoin College, the region's oldest university, which is located in a scenic park. During the time that theologian Calvin Stowe taught here, his wife Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote a classic novel, which was to prove to be more than a little significant: Uncle Tom's Cabin. Only a few kilometres away is the small dockyard town of Bath. A small, tranquil town which rests peacefully on the New England coastline. However, Bath has a tradition of boat building which dates back 250 years, an illustrious past for this vital industry. The so-called Chocolate Church became the town's landmark. High up on a hill, the rural heart of the town looks over the nearby river. This sums up the leisure time activities of the local inhabitants. The Maritime Museum is the main attraction, with several exhibition rooms which were built on the former wharf outside the town. The ending of the Cold War brought an end to the building of warships. This has now been replaced by the construction of freight vessels. Shortly before reaching Boothbay Harbour, there is a special attraction, the Boothbay Railway Village, a recreation park through which a steam train pulls its load. In the main station at the entrance to the building, an old German steam locomotive is being meticulously prepared for its next journey. The gentle round trip through the museum village can begin. This steam-driven railway was the typical mode of transport used in the 1930s. The train's passengers are shown a peaceful small town of the times, with a fire station, petrol station and tiny shops. These European narrow-gauge locomotives were specially designed for short journeys. Consequently, the obligatory steam, funnel and coal furnace are relatively small. Slowly, the steam train returns to its starting point, which is a copy of Freeport Station, a genuine replica of a station built in 1911. A nostalgic afternoon for train enthusiasts draws to a close. Nearby Boothbay Harbour is another tourist attraction. Boat trips embark from here and travel along picturesque bays and offshore islands. The journey passes old boat wharfs and fish factories. and also past modern residences and small yachting harbours. Boothbay's 1,000 inhabitants know how to live well. We see many small islands which guarantee their inhabitants a peaceful lifestyle. Here they can escape the hectic pace of the main town. In this fishing town turned tourist mecca, everything revolves around the catching of lobsters. Those who love these delicious crustaceans can try many different varieties here. In recent years, deep-cut rocky bays, sheltered from the wind, have transformed this romantic fishing port into a popular yachting harbour, which is beginning to attract tourism en masse. From the lighthouse at Pemaquid Point, there are spectacular views of the coast. Raging breakers and salty spray demonstrate the untamable might of nature. On the wild stone coast of this raw landscape, the largest waves of the Atlantic Ocean break relentlessly. Flat pieces of rock containing light stripes shine in the evening sunset. It is all too easy for the visitor to be taken in by this peaceful landscape. But as night falls, the lighthouse flashes non-stop. The light of this lonely, silent beacon has saved many a passing ship from disaster. The harbour town of Rockland prospers from fishing and is one of the largest lobster exporters in the country. There's nowhere to enjoy fresher, tastier and more varied seafood than on this part of the coast. Three-quarters of American lobsters and other fish are prepared and caught here. Fishing on a grand scale is what gives the people who live in this challenging region their livelihood. Touristy once again, but very pretty, and lying between the hills and the sea is Camden, which since 1830 has been on the itinerary for wealthy summer visitors. The harbour can be seen in the morning mist, within which huge yachts lie at anchor with their sails spread proudly, waiting patiently to take their passengers out into the open sea. The harbour master observes the entry and exit of ships very closely. Here, nothing is left to chance. Every journey has to be logged precisely. Slowly the small town at the foot of the Camden Hills awakes and prepares itself for yet another day. One of the most beautiful places in New England is ready to receive its guests. A visit to the souvenir shop, the Smiling Cow, with its adjoining terrace and harbour view, is a must. And the town's founding father looks down benevolently from his monument in the small town park towards the nearby church. Belfast is one of the dreamiest towns in the island-rich Penobscot Bay, whose name is reminiscent of the founding families from Ireland. After a short delay, we set off again, heading north. The road leads through endless woods. Here it grows increasingly isolated. In the huge wooded area on the border with Canada, the Indian summer begins at the end of September. The green woods and mountains are transformed into a flaming sea of fire, and the colourful spectacle continues to move further and further southward. The fiery red of the leaves is a sign to the Indians that the hunting season of the heavenly hunter has begun, as they believe it also colours the blood of the large bears in the woods. The trees register the fact that the days are getting shorter and alter their appearance in preparation for winter. The moisture, nutrition and minerals in the leaves decrease and the trees are reduced to bark and branches. Because these channels have stopped functioning, the green of the trees, chlorophyll, can no longer produce its sugar for the tree and thus loses its colour. At frosty nights and warm days, give the leaves a red pigment. John Steinbeck described it very appropriately. It is glowing, as if the leaves are trying to hang on greedily to the autumn sun and then slowly let it go again. The final destination on our journey through New England's glorious kingdom is at hand, Acadia National Park, which stretches across most of Mount Desert Island. It was private individuals, particularly the billionaire John Rockefeller, who gifted this land to the state. That is why the park is not a restricted area, but a collection of conservation zones. In 1919, this, the only national park in New England, was created to preserve this unique East Coast combination of lakes and mountains. On warm, sunny days, the sandy stretches of coast are a favourite attraction. This could almost be a southerly beach, but appearances are deceptive. On the sharp granite rocks of Thunder Cave, gigantic waves break continuously with a thunderous roar. The spray is as high as a house and makes people tremble with fear. Over and over again there are old town houses built in European style, which used to be the summer residences of rich Americans. Jordan Point is an alpine lake which is surrounded on three sides by mountains. When the continental ice caps melted, it turned into this small glacial lake. from Cadillac Mountain, the highest spot on the North Atlantic coast, is breathtaking. Here, the New World is closest to the Old World. New England is the traditional face of America, the heart of America's past.